it's interesting. You were very open talking about your diagnosis. It's a very interesting situation because, of course, you were partly affected, weren't you, by the advertising campaign back in the 80s, which talked, let's be frank, about HIV as a death sentence. I mean, I remember the tombstones. You know, it was so dramatic and frightening. Of course, HIV treatment now is extraordinary, isn't it? But it still was very frightening for you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing it's quite easy sometimes to educate people, but to try and re-educate people when they actually think that they know everything about HIV is even more difficult. And on the build-up to this campaign, I felt I started a conversation around the misunderstanding, around the stigma around HIV about 9 months ago. But I found it really difficult to keep the conversation going. So I then teamed up with Vive Healthcare and Terrence Higgins Trust. And prior to this campaign, we did a survey. And from that survey, I was shocked at the results when there's just about 50% of the people said that they felt that they could still contract HIV from a partner even if that partner was on effective treatment. 2/3 of the people said they would consider or would end a relationship if they found out that a partner was HIV positive. And one thing that was really personal to me was that 1/3 of the people that we surveyed said that if there was somebody playing a contact sport that was HIV positive and they weren't, then they would stop participating in that sport. They wouldn't take the field with somebody else who was HIV positive. And that shows that advert, that discrimination, that stigma is still around because medicine, as you said, medicine and science has moved on so
Gareth,
far.
It's an amazing interview you've done in the Mail today, incredibly powerful, very emotional and honest. But in it, you revealed an extraordinary thing which I wasn't aware of. You just take one tablet a day, and that tablet, that treatment, means you can't transmit HIV if you have sex with somebody else, for example.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. You know, we look at so many other things. You know, whether you take a tablet for diabetes or for blood pressure. Yet something, because we deem it as so serious as HIV, nobody really can believe that you take one tablet and lead a normal, healthy, happy life. And my husband is not at risk of contracting HIV, and he's HIV negative. Nobody can contract HIV if they use the same fork as me, knife and fork, the same glass. You know, all these perceptions of being in the same room as people, wanting to give people a hug. So I wanted to create a website, which is tacklehiv.org, where there's real information, where people can gain the knowledge to have the power to create an environment where HIV isn't a stigma, HIV is not misunderstood.
You're so right, because, of course, back in the 80s, we were petrified of it. And it sort of makes me think right now of the virus that we're trying to deal with at the moment, the coronavirus, because really what we're looking for all the time is hope for a treatment and a potential vaccine. But, of course, decades on from our understanding of HIV right at the beginning, we still don't have a vaccine to protect us against HIV, but we do have a treatment which basically means that it isn't a threat anymore.
Well, there is a tablet called PrEP, which is a tablet that you take that if you don't contract HIV but you put yourself at risk, then it can prevent HIV. And with HIV, obviously now I take a tablet every single day, which means that the virus in my system is undetectable, which means that it's untransferable. And I think what I want to celebrate and what I want people to know through tacklehiv.org is that kind of like almost like it seems like an underground movement that we haven't been able to celebrate in the science, in the medicine that people have been fantastically working and fantastically passionate about, so that people like me can live happy, normal, healthy lives. And everybody needs to know it, because as well, you know, it's not just gay men, black African men, black African women who are at risk of contracting HIV. HIV is not a discriminatory virus. It can affect anybody.
Gareth, today's your 3rd wedding anniversary, I'm told.
Happy anniversary.
It's actually my 10th wedding anniversary, the same day.
There you are. Well, you're 7 years ahead of me. You'll have to give me some tips.
Are you punching as heavily as I am or not?
Do you know what? I'd probably say I am. I think my husband, look, yeah, definitely, yeah. My husband married me because of my rugby prowess and my rugby strength. But at the age of 45, I no longer have that. So I'm holding on for dear life. Holding on for dear life.
Gareth, can I ask you about something else? It just annoyed me at the time. It was a moment that got a bit of notoriety during the England-Wales game when Joe Marler, the England player, grabbed Alan Wynne-Jones, the captain of Wales, he grabbed him in a certain part of his anatomy. And he did it as a joke. It backfired, a lot of adverse reaction. You made a joke on the commentary saying it never happened in my day, and I'm upset about that, as I'd never have retired. And you then got a huge amount of abuse, and you then felt compelled to apologise. All of it felt to me like a ridiculous overreaction.
Yeah, look, firstly, I want to say why I apologise. I apologised in case I offended anybody. I didn't apologise for what I said. I was apologising if people took it in an offensive way, because I didn't mean for it to offend in any way. But I think what became of it is people changed the narrative of the story, you know, and turned it into am I promoting, or are we promoting sexual assault, whether it be in the workplace? And of course, nobody was promoting sexual assault. People then changed the narrative, turning into hindsight, saying, well, what if it was this scenario, what if it was that scenario? And I've always found, you know, even with this, talking about HIV, is sometimes, well, a lot of times in life, if there's a really serious issue that you manage to break down with a bit of humour, then actually that's a great way of breaking down a serious issue.
I completely agree. I thought what you said, everyone in the studio was laughing. I was laughing at home. And I felt so sad it then became this huge, serious thing. Before we let you go, Gareth, there's a wonderful quote in the Mail interview that after you made a documentary about your life last year, you were getting off the tube in London and a guy was walking towards you with headphones on, probably didn't know how loud his voice was. He goes, I saw your programme about having HIV. And you felt suddenly everyone was looking at you and you didn't know what this guy was going to say. And actually, he reached out and shook your hand. Oh. And I thought that was a wonderful... Must have been a great moment for you, that.
That was a moment in my life that kind of changed my perspective of society, because I felt, you know, even though I'd been open and I'd had this huge amount of vocal support, I still felt a lot of people were looking at me negatively. But that was a moment in my life when I realised people are looking at me because they related to my story, not maybe because they were living with HIV, because everybody has been put into a corner and everybody somehow sometimes has to find a way out. And people take inspiration when people tell them how they fought their way out. And that moment to me, that person, I sadly, stereotypically thought that he was going to be offensive to me. But the reality is that he said something to me that changed the way that I look at society and made me maybe a little bit more embracing to society, and
well, that's what we need. I think in these very divisive times, generally, we need a lot more of that. It's been great talking to you, Gareth.
Yeah.
You're an incredible inspiration, and I think you've been on an extraordinary ride, haven't you, for the last 10 years? Yeah. And happy anniversary.